Hi there, this is Elena with Black Sheep 303 Creative, and you may have noticed lately that there are a lot of stamp sets coming out with otters in them, and I really love otters, so I had to buy one of them. I wish I could have bought them all because they're all super cute, but I went with the Mama Elephant Otterly Adorable set, and I just got it, so I had to, of course, make a card with otters. So what I'm doing is stamping one of the wave stamps using Versamark ink on Bristol Smooth cardstock. It's a little tricky to line up with that clear ink, but it did okay overall. And then I'm going to heat emboss it with white embossing powder. And I used the Bristol paper because I knew I was going to use my Zig real brush, clean color real brush markers. And so the Bristol paper is my favorite paper to use with those markers. It seems to blend really nicely. So I'm heat setting the waves in the white embossing powder, and I will do this again on a separate sheet with two more waves that I'm going to layer over the bottom of this panel, and you'll see that later at the end. Now to draw in the water, I used basically this method. So I've got my large water brush and it doesn't have any water in it. I'm just dipping it into that cup of water. And I am using, to start off with, 31 cobalt blue. And then I just am drawing different colors across in horizontal lines. And then I'm blending it using a horizontal motion as well with the brush to get that sort of, I don't know, like those horizontally lines in the water to make it look somewhat calm. Obviously it's not totally calm because we got a little bit of waves, but I'm using that horizontal motion to get that sort of nice blendy effect of water. And the two darker colors I used were 32 Persian blue and 37 cornflower. And on the second sheet, you'll see that they're even darker. Now for my sky, I used 36 light blue, and I was purposely like scribbly. Like I scribbled it in a circular motion, and now I'm blending it in a circular motion for that same reason, to like get, I don't know, it's sort of something about the way you draw it kind of is reflected in the finished product. And so I've just discovered that if I draw it the way I want it to look, it tends to turn out better. So that's my tip for the zigs today. Now here's my main otter. I stamped him in archival jet black ink. I did print out a picture of a sea otter because I wasn't entirely sure on the coloring, and the picture helped me a lot. And sea otters are different from river otters, so I needed to, be able to specify appropriately with my color choice, So I started off base coating him in 64 oatmeal, which is the lightest color I used, and then I'm adding in his darker fur using 65 mid brown. Now from the photo, I knew that his face and the fronts of his paws are light, so that's why I'm leaving those areas light. And then the rest of his body is a pretty dark brown. And if you've seen pictures or seen them in person, otters are super furry, like really furry. And so I was trying to capture that. Now it was a little difficult in the dark browns, so it's not as clear in the dark browns, but I do get a better look later with the light brown from the way that I draw in a little bit of texture on his face and his paws. My darker color brown here is 62 dark brown, and so I'm shading him basically as if the sun were from above. So he's kind of darker on the bottom of his tail, the bottom of his body, a little bit behind his leg, and his paw on the back is a little bit darker as well. And then I'm just blending everything with the water. Now I tried to take the oatmeal to add a little bit of texture in to both the face and the body, but it wasn't really working because it was just kind of blending with what was already there. So I did do a little bit with the 65 brown to get it a little bit of texture on the darker parts. And I'll try again with the oatmeal on his face, but again, it doesn't work. So I switch over to 67 mustard, which is a slightly darker color. So here you can see it. And I'm just kind of drawing on like little slashy marks to add in some texture to his furry face. And that seemed to work pretty well. And now I'm just darkening up the shadows to try to get better separation between that mid brown and the dark brown. And it does, in the end, work pretty well. Now I couldn't decide initially whether I was going to use the oyster or the little drink on his belly, but I decided to go with the drink. So I gave him a tequila sunrise, and I drew that using 50 yellow, 70 orange, and 22 carmine red, and then I just blended it with some water. And then the drink has a little garnish on it, so I made that 47 May green, so it's a lime. And then there is a funny little straw. It's like a stripy straw. And I thought maybe I'd make that blue, but that seemed weird. So I decided to turn the glass like a light blue. So I just drew it off there to the side. Now I'm using a fair amount of water to just bring a slight tint of blue to that glass. And then I started to color the stripes on the straw in the red, and that seemed like too fussy, so I just made the whole straw red. And then I added in a little more darkness to the bottom since it had turned mostly orange. Now I fussy cut him out as well as his drink, and I wanted to put the drink behind his hand. So I'm cutting around his paw with my craft knife to get like a little slit going there so I can stick the drink behind his paw and make it look a little more realistic. So that's what you get. And I use the quickie glue pen to glue the drink down and in place on his belly. Now I thought at this point I needed another set of otters, and then I wanted to put some sunglasses on my main otter. So I stamped him again, and I took a pencil and I basically kind of tried to draw on some sunglasses. And it was not too tough. I just kind of went with the sunglass shape. And once I was happy with what I had, I took my Stampin' Write marker in black and I just colored it in, and then I will wind up fussy cutting that out later and gluing it onto the first otter. And then for my second otters, I have like a mama and a baby, and I knew I was really going to only use their heads for the most part, so I knew I didn't have to color them all the way in. But I did the exact same method for coloring, so it was 64 oatmeal for the light colors, then 65 mid-brown for the first dark brown, and then I added shadows with the 62 dark brown. And then I go back and add in some furriness and some shading to their face with the 67 mustard, as you kind of see there. And then I will fussy cut them out as well and leave kind of a little bit of a white border all the way around them. And you'll see that in. So here are all my components ready to go. Now I cut out some clouds using the Lawn Fawn Simple Puffy Cloud Frames die set. I absolutely love this die set. It cuts out cloud frames as well as cloud middles, as you see there, so I tend to mix them together. And so I wound up using the large cloud middle, the middle cloud middle, and then one of the small cloud frames. I drew on a couple seagulls. That sun up there is from the Simon Says Stamp Happy and Smile stamp set. I needed a sun, and then there's my second piece of water that I mentioned earlier. Now I cut a slit so that I could fit my second set of otters behind the wave, with just like their heads sticking up. And I do that with like a little piece of tape, and then once it's stuck back down, you can't even tell that there's a cut in that piece. So that's kind of cool. And now I'm going to position my main otter once I get tape on this back piece. And I want him kind of in the middle. He's sort of the focal point. So I'm putting some tape on the back of him, and then I'm going to position him with my tweezers to get him in just the right place, because I want him under the water, but I don't want his drink covered up or anything. So I kind of positioned him where I wanted him, and now I'm going to layer the water on top. And now I'm going to put my clouds and sun in place, and they are going to overlap the top of the card. So I just wind up trimming off all the bits that overlap. And even though that sun has a really cute smiley face on it, I wound up not using it. I just needed a little bit of the side of the sun. Used a quickie glue pen to glue down the outline sun or cloud. And here is my greeting, which is also from the stamp set. It says, "There's no otter like you." So that's why I wanted my main otter guy to be kind of hip and cool, because there's no otter like him, right? And then to finish it off, I added some Pretty Pink Posh 4mm and 6mm clear droplets, and I did adhere those down with Ranger Multimedia Matte Adhesive. And that is my completed card, and I hope you like it. If you love otters the way I do, you probably have gotten one of those otter stamp sets, so maybe I've given you an idea for ways to color an otter card, and especially how to do some fun water, I think, with the Zig Clean Color Reel brush markers. So thank you so much for watching. As always, there is a supply list linked in the video description below, as well as on my blog. If you liked the video, I would love it if you give me a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, well, you should subscribe. You can also find me on Instagram at blacksheep303, and I always love to hear from you, so if you want to leave me a comment, suggestion, idea, thought, anything, I love it. Thanks so much. Have a great day.